Hello and welcome. Now, in the course, we talked about doing something called webinar jacking or webinar hijacking, and we're going to hijack the bonus process with an automated webinar system. And so I'm inside of a webinar system. It's called Webinar Fusion Pro. And just about any system that has an automated system can do something like this. So if yours is not Webinar Fusion Pro, you can actually replicate this inside of your own. So what we're going to do is I'm going to go to just take a look at one of my webinars, and I'm going to turn it into a recorded webinar. So here's one. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go in and I'm going to edit this one. I'm going to make this a recorded video, recorded webinar. I'm going to use one of my recordings here, and I'll just use one here. Right, so this webinar is now going to play this particular video that I've already uploaded. Now, the webinar system is not the point here. The point that I want to get to here is your actual time to make the offer. So I'm going to go inside of the system of Webinar Fusion Pro, and what we would do is we would set up an offer. So we'd go and set up an offer, and in this particular case I've already got one that was already in here, even though I didn't launch it for this webinar. So I'm going to take a look and edit this one. You'll notice here it's got a name, it's got a URL, it's got a URL, and then it's got a button text, right? So if I preview this, okay, it doesn't have a graphical representation. Remember, we always want to have a graphical representation. So let's go ahead and put one in here. I'm just going to pick any image right now. Okay, so we've got one in there. We're just going to click preview. Okay, so there's our graphical representation. Right now, a person can click this button and be sent to a particular URL. So now our offer is set. So now what we're going to do is we're going to set the timing. Now in Webinar Fusion Pro, this is called the Fusion Bot. It's called different things in different systems. And so what we're going to do is at the point of, we're going to say at the point of this 29:54, we're going to actually make sure that the offer is shown to the attendees. I'm going to click add. So now what we want to do is to make sure that on an automated basis, when somebody comes to this webinar, they start watching it, they get to the point where it's 29:54, they're going to see the offer. So now we're really set up so that the person can actually watch a webinar. And however you do it inside of your webinar system, in Webinar Fusion Pro, it's called the Anytime link. So we would grab that link, and once again, I'm going to recommend that you put this link inside of some kind of paging system, or that you cloak it. And today, right, most webinar systems are not being targeted for spam of any kind, but you don't necessarily want to rely on that, especially if you're going to have traffic on an ongoing basis. So one of the things that you can do is, I'm going to go back to the video where we created a landing page, and basically we're going to create the same kind of landing page. In this case, we would not create, a video. We would maybe say, we'd put a headline in here, and our headline would say visit this webinar or something to that effect. And then this URL would go to that Anytime link, right? So now a person comes to the page, they see the headline, they're being asked to take a look at the video. Maybe we'll give them some incentive, we'll give them a bonus if they check this out, or tell them what they're about to experience. I mean, we can probably get a different kind of template. We could probably get one that people recognize as a webinar template, right? We could do that, or some kind of special event page. Right? We could do something like this, and we can make that Anytime link the button. Okay, but now when they click that button, they're going to be taken to that webinar, and they're going to be able to watch that webinar, and then we know that at the 30-minute point, they're going to be shown an offer. And what we want to do with the timing is, we want people to have seen the actual value, and want them to appreciate what it is that is being offered, and then to be able to click the link. Now, we don't necessarily want to show them the offer prior to the point in the video where they have seen the entire value, right? So in this particular case, in Webinar Fusion Pro, not entirely sure. Let's just take a look and see what actually happens. You're going to see here then when they get that link, it's going to say that the webinar is going to start in 10 seconds, right? And then the video is actually going to start. Right now, what we want to do is we just want to see, okay, so I'm going to stop this here. But that's actually what would happen. So when you send people to that automated webinar, they're going to click the link, they're going to start watching the video, and then at 30 seconds or 30 minutes, they're going to see the offer. And so we would be making sure that that process is as seamless as possible, and that they would be able to make or buy what it is that we have to sell. Now, there is another aspect of this that I do want to tell you about. And I'm going to go back into the webinar system because, in particular, one of the things that we can do with a webinar is we can actually make it so that the webinar is really doing the selling for us. We don't want to rely on a sales page. And so in that particular case, I'm going to go back into this webinar. And when I create this offer, so this is very important because every page that your viewer has to click on will probably lead to some kind of drop off. So in this particular case, they're being sent to a sales page, right? But we may not want to send them to a sales page. What we could do is, I'm going to go inside of JVZoo right now. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to one of the products. I'm going to go to the buy buttons here. Right? And so what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to send them to this link. Right? And the reason I'm going to send them to this link is because I will have already sold them. Right? I would have spent the webinar doing the selling process, and I may not want to send them to a sales page. In that particular case, all I want them to do is to go to the buy page. Right? Let's click Save Changes. And that's where they would appear. They would appear at the actual buy page as opposed to a sales page. And again, you're really then depending on the selling process to happen inside of the webinar. So if you've got a good converting webinar, you've got a good sales process, or you're confident that you're going to be able to communicate all the features and benefits and then the value, then you want to send them directly to go buy at that point in the webinar when they're ready to make the purchase. Okay, so that's it for part 6. Thanks, and I will see you in another video.